All right. So now we have Maria Helena with us. Maria Helena holds a degree in English and German from the University of São Paulo, USP, and a master's degree in theoretical and applied linguistics. She has extensive experience as an English teacher and teacher trainer, having worked as coordinator and director of studies. She's a qualified CELTA, DOTI, and COTI tutor with extensive experience developing teaching materials and supporting professional development. And now she works here at Agosto Language School, and she is preparing students for TOEFL, for Cambridge, for IELTS, and she does everything. So welcome, Maria Helena.
Thank you, Lu. Thank you, Lu. Thank you all. So as I said, I've been around for a while, so I'm not disclosing numbers. So I'm gonna mix the slides and non-slides because this is actually an ongoing reflection. I don't have the answers. I've just been thinking about a few things that I'd like to share with you, and maybe we can get somewhere together or not, at least not today. So let's crack on. So you're going to talk about the differences between the Cambridge exams and the TOEFL exam, especially, obviously, the 2026 version. The idea is that we talk about the rationale. They both test English, but it's quite different the way they do. And why is that? It's not because one is British, the other is American. It's because they hold different views of language, what language proficiency entails, right? And then because they see the same object from different perspectives, obviously they see a kind of different object, although very similar. Okay. So what I intend to do is to talk about the purpose and structure of each exam very briefly. I'm preaching to the converted. What are the assessment principles, especially, and I'm going to focus on the speaking part, because the other parts, listening, reading, and writing, it's pretty much nothing new under the sun. The skills and sub-skills are the same. How speaking proficiency is conceptualized in the exams. What do we see? How is it translated? And implications from the classroom teaching. And this is kind of the experiential, experimentational part, because those are the things I've been experiencing and experimenting with in my practice. Okay? So far, so good. Okay. So nothing new under the sun. This is the Cambridge main suite. So we have the key, preliminary, first, advanced, and proficiency, right? They are aligned with this, they test general English. They are CFR aligned, hence the code. And they heavily focused on communicative competence, right? So the main focus of all of the exams is real life communication across a range of contexts. All the tests, they are fully integrated. You see something in reading that will appear again in writing. The listening has to do. They are all connected via topic. They progress in difficulty, but they all go under the same umbrella in terms of topic. Right. So in the past is, you have the Save the Whales text. Yeah. So it was very common to say something like that. Okay. When it comes to TOEFL, well, that's a different character. That's a different creature. So I'm talking about the TOEFL IBT 2026 that was completely remodeled. And there were things that were shocking even for the ETS. So the purpose is focused on what they call academic English. So campus life, campus-like situations, language that could be heard and used in the classroom, at the dorms, across campus, in a different array of interactions. So student, tutor, student, professor, a number of things, right? And what are the updates that we're still adapting to? Reading and listening, they are adaptative. So part one, it is what it is. Part two, the level of difficulty, the type of questions you're going to see is linked to your performance in the first part. The speaking session is brand new. We're going to see it in a minute. There was the interview, there were other things. Now we have two parts. Stronger CFR alignment, which is wow. ETS had to, simply acknowledge the obvious. You cannot go anywhere if you don't align with the CFR, right? The concordance table for the scores was a nightmare, right? And the scoring for the speaking is AI and human scoring. And interaction you have in the speaking section or module or part is AI. So who asks you the questions in the interview is an AI avatar. Okay. What's the assessment focus? They measure the candidates, or they call the test taker, ability to use English in academic context. So listening has to do with listening in lectures, reading academic texts, participating in campus interactions. Although they are scientific-like, but not too specific, that a college student wouldn't be able to understand. But it's definitely not general English. You have to be familiarized with what academic texts would be like. And time is a strong component, right? And it has to do with their vision of learning or language, right? So, same destination, different routes. Why? Because both of them attest proficiency, right? Both of them are accepted at renowned universities, right? However, okay, they define the construct of proficiency, and I use it in a kind of loose term because we're not talking about the constructivism, but construct as the object, right? So let's say Cambridge and let's say TOEFL IBT. One focuses on general English, the other one academic English. Speaking part is interaction focused. You can't do it individually. It used to be like that in the 70s. Whoopsie, when I first sit the Cambridge proficiency, the interview was individual. It's not, it hasn't been for a long time. For ETS, it's performance focused. I don't care whom you're talking to. I care how you're doing and how fast you're doing. Interaction, Cambridge exams, is always face-to-face, usually in pairs. We might have a trio, but it's face-to-face, right? And interaction for ITS is computer-mediated. Whereas Cambridge focuses on social communication, TOEFL, ITS will focus on academic communication. I know. So let's talk about the speaking assessment. What underlies it? What is behind? What are they telling us? Right? So how each exam conceptualizes and tests spoken proficiency. I'm going to stop it for a while. So I'm going to ask you very quickly, what is language proficiency for you? What comes to mind? I can tell X is proficient. How can you tell? What does it mean?
Don't be afraid. Come on, so you can talk
Yeah, it's
about
just
it.
it's just a question. It's just a
Okay.
question.
Let's participate. Come on.
Can I start?
Please do.
I would start with being able to communicate quite easily, confidently, and comfortably. I would say overall, if you're feeling comfortable and you're ready to deal with the unexpected, since interacting in a way, spoken discourse is inherently improvised. So if you're able to deal with that, I would say this characteristic has its place in proficiency.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not that able to teach math and English because I learned. Yeah. It's a skill. We can learn. It's a skill.
I think it's like
For example, how you
fluency,
count is a skill.
fluency and accuracy all together.
Okay, fine. Hello, Sam. I hear you. I hear you, absolutely. Because you can communicate, but the quality of your communication, that's something else. You can use me. I don't know if it's politically correct or not. If it's not, I apologize. You can use me, Jane, you Tarzan English, no problem. The thing is, what will you accomplish? Sometimes you will accomplish something, right? So for a long time, proficiency was accurate grammar, intelligible pronunciation, the closest to a native speaker as possible. But bricklayers are also native speakers, right? So what native speaker are we talking about? And precise vocabulary. So I remember when I did the proficiency, again in the 70s, I remember that very vividly. One of the speaking tasks was the postcard. Was a postcard. That was amazing. And you're there with the examiner. That was the impersonation of every British professor you have ever imagined, right? McGonagall would be an understatement. But then they would pull a postcard, very complex, full of information, and you had to describe the postcard in all shades, colors, shapes. So I remember memorizing lists and lists of collectives, the Pantone portfolio was on my bedside table. So there was one understanding of the thing. It doesn't happen anymore. So the idea of proficiency has changed, thank God, throughout time. Right? But there are people, I see the comments, that are still in the 70s or the 19th century. Only native speakers are able to use the language, which is not true. We are all here. Right? We are all here. Okay. So, assent, and I promise will be there are some things that heavily influenced the way the two boardings, Cambridge and ETS, see language proficiency. Okay. One is the idea of communicative competence coined by Cannell and Swain in the 80s. Yes, I know, but this is a seminal work, right? That was the book that went beyond grammar and vocabulary, right? They argue that real language ability includes not only grammatical competence, but social linguistic discourse, and strategic competence. In other words, the ability of use language appropriately and effectively in different situations. That was absolutely groundbreaking. Right. Apparently, some people haven't read the book yet here in Brazil, hence the native speaker obsession. And then we have Leo Bachman, right, that expanded on this idea, right, and added interaction. Right. Language is something that is constructed during interaction. Because I shift my register, I shift the words, I shift the construction, I shift a number of things. It's like a switchboard. Then I customize it according to my interlocutor or my interlocutor, which is pretty much what we do in our L1 without noticing, because this is already automatized. Okay. So the communicative competence is put at the service of interaction. So if I don't know whom I'm talking to, that is, my communication won't be effective. There will be problems, right? Many problems. And being the CFR that's been around since the early 2000s, it started as an ALTI document, which is a branch of the European Union. So it all started with this huge mapping of what is being considered proficiency because of the frontiers and everything. So we should assert that a person holds this level of proficiency throughout the continent. I'm talking about the European continent. And then it all started, the seminal document is 2000, 2001. And then there was an amending and an accompanying appendix updating 2020. That's absolutely amazing. I strongly recommend 500 pages that deserve your attention. So a few steps forward. So it's not only shaping what I say, is not only shaping what I say in relation to whom I'm interacting with, but it also has to do what one can do effectively in real life tasks. So here's the idea of, if you are a C1 or a C2, it means that you function at the same level of proficiency of your L1. So the shifting is imperceptible. Então a gente pode continuar falando aqui em português até as 3 da tarde. However, when I need, I can go back to English very quickly. I don't have to think about the words because the words come. Because they are together. My mental picture, let's go back to Chomsky in the 60s. My mental picture of whatever I have to do has 2 sides, or 3 sides, or 4 sides. It depends on how many languages I speak. How proficient I am, it depends. It depends on the number of things and the complexity of the things I can do without previous input. Okay? Does it make sense to you? Fine? Question? No? Yeah? Right. Okay. So, all very nice, but then, so how does Cambridge construct this idea of proficiency? Negotiation of meaning. Speakers work together to clarify and confirm understanding. If you have ever seen any video of any Cambridge interview, paper 5, or prepared, or have been prepared for exams, your teacher has been said numerous times, negotiate meaning. And you say, what on earth does it mean? It means clarifying, because that's something that we do in real life. Turn taking, manages who speak, when, and how long. What if my pair doesn't start talking? Well, you do. What if my pair tries to take over? Well, interrupt. Repair. What if I make mistake? Correct. What if I make 2 mistakes? Correct. What if I don't say anything? Well, that's too bad. Because self-correction indicates proficiency. That's how Cambridge sees it. Collaboration. Each and every speaking part has a collaborative task. Here are the ideas for fundraising the local library. Talk together about which ones would be more effective and then decide on the 2 most effective. They have to negotiate. They have to do all of this to come here. And spontaneous communication, responding in real time to an unpredictable interlocutor, because you don't know what your pair is going to say. What if they say something that is completely out of character? Well, we put on a brave face and say, I've never thought about it. But now that you're saying, wow, the how sometimes is more important than the what, right? Because the assessor, obviously, are you doing the task? Yes. Are you on task? Yes. But your opinions are your opinions. Okay. Right. So what's the format? Again, preaching to the converted. You have an interlocutor, 2 candidates, they interact. The interlocutor interacts, setting the tasks. Then the 2 candidates interact, doing the tasks. And then you have the assessor. Then the assessor had the discrete items, the assessment criteria, grammar and vocabulary is range and accuracy. Why isn't there a list, an objective list of what is a 4 for Cambridge? Because there is no such a thing. If you think about the principles, how can I belittle that to 4,000 or 5,000 expressions? I can't, because it's about your resources. It's about range and how well you manipulate the range. Then pronunciation, intelligibility. Are you clear? Does a question sound like a question? Otherwise, people won't answer it. It has nothing to do with an accent. Accent is fine, good for you. But you have to be clear. We have to bear in mind that even in England, if they're seeing a Scottish TV show, it comes with subtitles. So I rest my case. I'm not talking about accent here, because it's not a topic. We can talk about the charm, but that's immaterial. Discourse management. What is being said? Does it make sense? Is it developed? There is a beginning, a development, a conclusion. Or we have just, sentences, beautiful words in the air. And interactive communication. Are you actually talking to the person next to you? Is there a moment for initiating? What do you think? You lost me there. Responding. I've never thought about it. And negotiating. That's a good idea. But perhaps we could also have a fundraising dinner. Who doesn't like eating? Okay. So you see, it looks more holistic. It looks something closer to real life, doesn't it? Say yes. Okay. When it comes to ETS, well, again, we are talking about a different creature. Individual production. The candidate speaks alone. There is no human interlocutor to negotiate with. Select the rice to make sushi. Select the rice to make sushi. Or you have the avatar. That's very interesting. Now, how important is it to be creative? How creative are you in your professional, in your academic life? The tasks are academic. So responses are linked to campus life, lectures, and academic content. You're always talking about a supervisor, somebody at the dorms, your tutor, you are in a lecture. There is always, or you're going to do some volunteering work at the school, I don't know, support room, something like that. It's always like that. Time pressure. Is there time in Cambridge exams? Of course there is. They have 2 minutes, they have 3 minutes, they have 5 minutes in a group, in a pair. ETS, speaking part 1, you have 8 seconds. You have 9 seconds. You have 12 seconds. Interview questions, you have 45 seconds. And they understand that the skills are integrated somehow. What appears for you in the speaking part has to do with the topic or the scenario presented in the previous parts. Okay, it's not me, this is ETS. So what's the format for the speaking? You have some input, a picture. When you talk about input for ETS, we are talking about the 70s. Why? No judgment here. It's a flat picture, usually a drawing, computer room. In one of the samples, there was a fax machine. I'm not joking. There was a fax machine.
True.
I'm not joking.
True.
It's a fax machine. I cannot disclose the material, I'm afraid, but there was a fax machine. Yeah. Then there is thinking time. Thinking time is not quite, because the time you have to think is the time you are having the input. And then in the first part, you have like a 2 second, and then there goes the beep, and then you repeat. And this part is AI rated. The AI, and I hope they have a good one, will we rate. The second part is pretty much the same thing. There is input. Let's talk about creativity. You were attending an interview for a volunteering job at the student's library. That's your input. Thinking time, I'm attending, okay, interview, volunteering work, I really need this job. And then you have the question, the avatar asks you the question, and then bing, and then you have 45 seconds. And this is human rated. How does ETS do that? That's really interesting. They pulverize the exam. They literally pulverize and they distributed it to raters throughout the United States. There are no raters outside US borders. I don't know if they have somebody in Hawaii, but the thing is within the border. There are people who are specialized in question 1. So they rate question 1. They receive files and files and files of question 1. Then they have question 2, question 2, people that are question 3, question 4. Then, okay, they process, click send. This huge thing is put together, is reassembled, and then you have the result. That's how it's rated. if somebody's interested in logistics, I think this is kind of Disneyland for logistics people, right? So listen and repeat is the first part. You have 9 sentences. They differ in size and complexity, but they are topic linked. Okay. ETS likes syllables. So they say this sentence has 9 syllables. This sentence has 12 syllables. This sentence has 13 syllables. So there are a set of sentences. You're going to listen to them. You're going to repeat them. You're going to repeat them verbatim. Because as closer as possible to the original. For you to have an idea, they graded from 0 to 5. The difference between 4 and 5. 4 is really good. Is C1 like, is really good. The difference between 4 and 5 for this criterion is that 5 verbatim, 4 one word was different. The same meaning, the meaning was kept. The meaning was kept, but the word was not the exact word. Intelligibility, right? And fluency. Fluency for them is speed. So if they consider that the first 2 sentences are short sentences, they should be no longer than 10 syllables. That's what they consider fluency. Then we have you have the 7 sentences. Thank you very much. Then you move to the second part, which is the interview style, because that's not an interview. Is a simulated interview or opinion questions that require extended, organized responses under time constraints, 45 seconds. 45 seconds. What do they assess? Delivery and fluency. If hesitation for Cambridge is a matter, it's a feature of life. People hesitate when they organize their thoughts. This is absolutely normal. ETS, hesitation is a flow. Do not hesitate. Tatiana, their exam, their university, the ball, the pitch, the uniforms. It is what it is. Obviously, if you are intelligible, and obviously, they are testing your range of language. Obviously. And topic development. If you do this in 45 seconds, I'm not telling you that you're a 5, but I'll tell you that you are at least above 3. Because we tried, Lou and I tried. I've been doing this professionally for 41 years. I have all the certificates you can imagine, because that's what we did. This is what my generation did. All of them. I had trouble doing it the first time. Obviously, 45 seconds. I'm content oriented. Obviously, I can reproduce. Verbatim, that's parroting.
We couldn't do that for the first time.
The first time was carnage.
For the first, the second, the third time, it's impossible to do it. And what is really interesting about TOEFL preparation and students who look for us is that because they speak very well, they think they are able to do the test. They are not able to do the test. You need preparation. If you're not prepared, you are going to fail for sure. And then students come here, but I don't need to prepare. Can I prepare in 5 lessons? You can. Yeah, so I'm so sorry.
We had this experience.
Yeah.
We had people say, I can do it. First mock, Lou, I need more classes.
Exactly. So she had 10 classes and now she bought more 10 classes, and I believe that she will need more classes.
She does. If we're talking about, yeah. Right.
Sorry,
no, that's absolutely. And the thing is, all of this is valid and kind of okay, because then we're this is exam technique. bearing in mind that whomever the candidate, the test taker, whatever they call it, has the language support, has the language scope. Because without language, that's even worse. I'm considering that this is okay, is a matter of practice and supporting tasks. If the candidate has a kind of robust language scope, an army exam, absolutely, absolutely. Because the idea, it's very hard to find literature about ETS and about their exams, because it's a kind of Fort Knox of VLT. They don't share anything. They don't disclose anything. Everything we found, it was like Sherlock Holmes thing. But the thing is, it's a screening system. That's my personal conclusion. It's a screening system because they don't want people to give them a hard time. They don't want trouble at university. They want people that can function. If you can do this and pay $50,000 a year, maybe I'll take you in. That's the average price of an education in the US. So talking about Ivy League, that's over 100. So the thing is, having the money is not enough. You have to belong to a very small group, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you want, fine. Right? But it has always been like this. And people kind of celebrated that the exam has been redesigned. You really don't know it yet. You have no idea what they do, because they are masters of encryption, and they do things that is, but there is always a thing. So, but anyway, this is on work in progress, right? I'm still making sense of that. Okay. So if we were to put them together, what's the dimension? What are the tasks? Cambridge and TOEFL. What's the focus? Interaction, individual performance. Your relationship with the interlocutor is always human for Cambridge, because either you're interacting with interlocutor who's asking you the questions, or with your peer that is doing the test with you. ETS is the machine. What's the context? The context is social general, because it's language for life. No wonder Cambridge says, well, Cambridge doesn't pay me to say that, but when they say it's for life, it is really for life. Because any aspect of your life. And academic, Ivy League, or this institution, fine. This is like our physical exam, or as Jenny said, it is the army of VLT. Can I use that? Louis can have a TOEFL boot camp?
Not yet.
Oh, no, okay, but I mean the name.
Oh,
TOEFL
yes.
boot camp.
It's great. I like it.
So what's the discourse type? Conversational, because everything is decided in a conversation. Everything is tested in a conversation. Monologic response. The computer says, you repeat. The computer asks, you answer. The key skill is a co-construction of language. Why? Because they are constructing meaning together. The candidates are constructing meaning together in that conversation. And for ETS, independent production. That's me. And how is the scoring done? Human, AI plus human. Okay. And both of them are quite complex and thorough, and as everything Cambridge does, there are at least 2 tiers of correction, and that's insane. So the main areas, I'm talking about the assessor, okay, because the interlocutor will give you We give the candidate a global mark based on task achievement. Was the task done? If I asked you to decide on the most effective fundraising initiatives to support the local library, did you do it? Did you talk about the library fundraising and not birthday party? Right. Whereas the assessor will analyze the discrete items. Grammar and vocabulary, discourse management, pronunciation, interactive communication, always the range. Interaction is explicitly scored. What if everything is amazing, but my interaction communication is non-existent? Well, you'll be penalized here. But I did everything. I spoke, well, the Queen's dead, or the King's English, or the best English my money could buy. Fine. But you didn't even acknowledge there was a human being next to you. That's not what we want. Whereas for ETS, delivery, 45 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds, verbatim. Language use, everything that is there is an excuse to see your range of grammatical and lexical scope. And topic development. There is no direct score for interaction because there is no interaction. But there are good news. This can be trained. Because if things are very strict and straight to the point, they can be trained. So I developed, which I won't share with you today because I'm still testing, some formulae for how to address the thing. Maybe next time, because I'm still testing. So both of them claim validity. So whenever you read about testing or assessment or testing, there are two key concepts, reliability and validity, right? They are reliable because they are backed up on research and scope and everything. But validity is very important because it's, if you may, is their foot in reality. They are not testing language that nobody uses, won't be recognized as archaic. No. So how do these two boards claim validity? For Cambridge, it has to do with authenticity through interaction, because you're replicating as much as possible a real life-like situation. People talk. People introduce themselves. People give their opinion. People don't agree. People expand. People decide. People negotiate. I want pizza, but I prefer Chinese. No, we had Chinese last time. Let's have pizza. I'm on a diet. You see, there is this dance, if you like. It's not only your ability to perform the task, but your ability to replicate, to construct something via interaction. And this has a strong foot in the real world. ETS, authenticity through academic tasks. This is a screening procedure. They won't say it. This is a screening method. I want to see people fit in. Full stop. They will learn how to interact later, or interaction is not important because everything here is about their individual performance. So the exam would sample or mirrors the ability to process academic input and produce relevant spoken output under the conditions that they might encounter in their university life. The thing is, this is much easy to manage in terms of high scale. This is the paradise of exam selling because you don't need people. It's highly scalable, if this word exists, but this is something that is mind-go. This needs a certain logistic structure, but they're just different. And what's the washback on teaching? Well, if you want to prepare your students, what are the tasks that, or the types of interaction that we should have in the classroom? Pair work and group discussion, always. Role play and simulations, information gap activities, collaborative problem solving tasks, focus on turn taking and repair. Pretty much what we've been doing, right? But if you're preparing students for the TOEFL, timed independent response, invest in a stopwatch. You have 8 seconds. Bing, next. Bing, next. Integrated speaking tasks. Well, we talked about attending lecture in elective disciplines. Or, for example, one of the questions was about creativity. The other one was about something to do with the stars. Note taken and oral summary. So they have, especially for the writing, but the speaking, it works as well. They have to be able to get language very easily, retrieve language very easily. Academic vocabulary focus. Yeah, that's okay. And practice under strict timing. One thing that I've been doing, believe it or not, I'm back to the 70s. I'm doing drills. Drills as we understood in the 70s. Long drills, so they can literally parrot the sentence. Because the idea here is not automatize articulation. No. The idea here is repeat, listen and repeat, listen and repeat. Okay. What are the implications? They are different exams. They require different preparation. Cambridge focuses on interaction. TOEFL focuses on academic performance. And I'll end this with Virginia Woolf. Though we see the same world, we see through different eyes. So I strongly recommend Virginia Woolf any time of the year. And these are my references. Thank you very much. I don't know how much of my time I used.
That's
Thank
okay,
you.
Maria Helena. It was
I really do.
amazing,
Thank you.
amazing. So I think that we learned a lot. And there is a myth. And because I interview students, I talk to students a lot. They come to me and they say, I would like to do TOEFL because TOEFL is easier. I said, oh,
In what world? In what world?
oh my God. And in this session, because we don't have much time, Maria Helena decided to talk about the speaking. But there is the listening, the reading, and the writing. That is a nightmare. The writing,
The particular nightmare, yeah.
The writing is horrible. And how are you going to work with that? So if you want to know more about TOEFL, we are going to have news very soon. Maria Helena doesn't know that because I didn't have time to talk to her, but she's involved.
Am I? Thank you.
Yeah, she is.
Thanks for letting me know.